Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying the early break from school. So we shall continue to chapter 12 on selecting a sample, and this is video perhaps 8. We are about to finish the whole chapter on sampling. So previously, we talked about 3 types of random or probability sampling designs, including simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, and cluster sampling. That's what the researcher want. They want to employ probability sampling design if and when possible. However, there are certain situations where such sampling designs are not a possibility. They need to adopt uh, non-probability or non-random sampling design in their research simply because they don't have that kind of possibility. So the question is, when does a researcher use one of the non-probability sampling designs that we are going to cover in this part? Yes, there are 2 reasons why a researcher must resort to using uh, the non-probability sampling design. The first reason is that the researcher does not know exactly the number of elements in a study population. Let me give you 3 examples where we don't know the exact number of sampling elements or sampling units. No one knows the exact number of street children in our town, and we we don't know. We just don't know, and we will perhaps never know the exact number of street children in the city. The other example is we don't know, and perhaps we will never know the exact number of homeless people in the city. Similarly, we don't know, and we never know the exact number of our school children in our community, in our city, for example. So in this instance, we cannot randomly select a sample, for example, 200 sample size from the sampling population, because we cannot do so. Another reason why we use non-random sampling design is that we could not identify the sampling elements. We cannot know the names of all street children. We don't know their names. We don't know the identity or the names of all our school children. We never know the names and identity of all homeless people in the city. So we have no choice. We wish to use random or probability sampling designs because it's a superior design. It's a better design. It's a better option, a better choice, because we are able to generalize the research results from our small sample to the target uh, population. But as stated, sometimes a researcher have no such a luxury. The next question is, how many non-probability sampling designs are there? Ranjit Kumar have provided us with 6 non-probability sampling designs. The first one is quota sampling, and we shall go to the definition of quota sampling design and when it is appropriate in selecting a sample. The second One is accidental sampling. We are going to talk about this important concept also. The third uh, types of non-probability sampling design is convenient sampling. Fine, we're gonna cover this in a moment. Number four type of non-random sampling design is judgmental or purposive sampling. Number five is expert sampling. And the last but not least is snowball sampling. This is a big deal. There are 6 non-probability sampling designs. And this kind of sampling design, these are commonly used, okay? They are commonly used in both quantitative and qualitative research. So if you conduct a survey, which is a quantitative study, and you cannot afford to use probability sampling design, okay, you have the option. You can employ one of these non-probability sampling design. If your research is aim to collect qualitative data, for example, through observation or interview, you have the option of using one of these non-probability sampling design also. Having said that, I just want to emphasize that these sampling design, non-probability sampling design, are very, very common, perhaps more common in qualitative studies than a quantitative study. That is just a note, an additional note to what we have digested from Ranjit Kumar. Let's go to the first type of non-probability sampling design. Okay, quota sampling. So a researcher, employs quota sampling because of this reason, because of ease of accessibility. Ease of access is a key consideration when a researcher decides to use quota sampling. For example, library users, at your school, quite easy to access, and you decide to use quota sampling. Yeah, because you can approach the library users, and they are ready to provide the information through interview or through filling in the questionnaire, and they are a group that is quite accessible. So you take the opportunity to access them, and you take the opportunity to employ quota sampling because of ease of access or high accessibility to the sample. I just want to emphasize or underline this very important concept. A researcher who employs quota sampling is guided by some visible characteristics of the sample. For example, you want to find out why people smoke cigarettes, even if they are aware that cigarette is bad for their health. So when you see people, smoking, they hold a cigarette in their hand and they, puff, the fume of the cigarette into the air. You just approach the cigarette smoker. So you decide to approach him or her based on what you can see. He is smoking. So you just, select the right people, the people who are qualified, who can provide you the information. This is a powerful concept behind quota sampling. Uh, you decide to approach someone because of easy you know characteristics that you can observe, such as holding cigarette, or uh, you wait outside um, you wait outside a pharmacy, and when people get out of the pharmacy, you decide to interview him or her about, let's say, what kind of medicine they buy from the pharmacy, because you want to know what is a common health challenge or health challenges of the target population, for example. Or you you talk to students who drink coffees. You approach them because they are holding a cup of coffee, and they drink coffee, and you plan to recruit coffee drinker. Therefore, such visible characteristic allows you to access the qualify or the people who possess the data that you want. Um, so you approach, as stated earlier, you approach a coffee drinker, or you approach smokers um, based on the visible, observable characteristics, and then you keep, recruiting or contacting the people until you reach the required number. You reach the quota. Let's say you set a quota of 300 smokers. So you keep identifying, observing people who smoke. You approach them. So once you have collected the data from 300 of them, you stop. So that's the concept. And that's the key concept of quota sampling. I love to, provide you with one more example of quota sampling. It's very easy to conduct a study on, let's say, satisfaction with library services. You should not go to the classroom because it's not productive. If you go to the classroom, a lot of students gonna say, "No, I have never visited the library in the last 6 weeks," and you are only interested in collecting opinions from those who have freshly used the library. Freshly used the library is operational as those who have visited the library in the last 6 weeks. So don't do that. What you need to do is to wait in front of the library, or seek is to seek permission from the librarians, get into the library, deliver the questionnaire to the people over there who are using the library, and ask them to fill in the questionnaire. If they, uh, volunteer to participate in your research, that's cool. That powerful. Quota sampling is amazing. Is gonna be productive. Gonna make you very productive. Gonna make your day so productive. The advantages of quota sampling, it's the least expensive. You can tell and you can see that quota sampling is uh, less costly, the least costly. Why? Because you wait at a location, you observe the people who possess characteristic, you approach them, and you collect the data. So data collection gonna be like fast, inexpensive. Possibly it take like a week in order to survey 200 to 300 people, I guess. That's cool. That enlightening. Another advantage of quota sampling is that, as stated earlier, uh, you you don't need a sampling frame. or other information about the sampling population. You don't need the frame because uh, the idea is to set a quota, 200, 300 sample size, and then you approach people who possess the characteristic and you collect the data from them. Another advantage is that quota sampling can guarantee the inclusion of the type of people that you want to include in your research. For example, you want to include or you want to survey the opinion of the smokers. They smoke because they're smoking. So you never get wrong when you use quota sampling. Uh, some disadvantages, it results in a sample that is not a probability one. Yes, quota sampling is a type of non-probability sampling. So if you select 200 library users, after 1 week of data collection, you can recruit 200 library users in the first week. So how about those who come to the library also, but for some reason they fail to show up in the library to come to the library on the week when you collect the data, so they don't have equals chance of being selected. So it's hard for a researcher to generalize, the research results that come from uh, non-random sampling, such as this one, quota sampling. It's hard to generalize the results. And another disadvantage is this: the people that you can access so easily may not be representative of those who do not show up, who do not happen to be there on the day, at the time, or where you collect the information. So we need to be well aware of the the disadvantages of quota sampling also in order to conduct good research. Okay, class, let's move on to accidental sampling. So accidental sampling is based on convenience in accessing the sampling population. So convenience is a key consideration also for a researcher when recruiting the participant. Convenience, accessibility, or convenience. For example, uh, you collect data from your classmates. That's convenient. Or you talk to the participants studying in the next class. Okay, adjacent classes. That's convenient. So convenient is a big deal in research sometimes because it saves time for people. It saves other resources for people. For accidental sampling, the researcher is not guided by an obvious or visible characteristic as in quota sampling. You approach, let's say you want to find out why people smoke. When you see someone, let's say adult, okay, you see an adult, you approach him, you ask him a question, do you smoke? He might say yes, he might say no. Simply, if he say no, I don't smoke, you say thank you, because you want to talk to smokers. So that's the difference between accidental and quota sampling. Um, it's very popular among market researchers and newspaper reporters. I think everyone remember, a newspaper reporter would approach you or approach me and so collect some opinions from you or from me simply because of our uh, being convenience for them to access. Market researchers would stop you and ask you a few questions simply because he happens to see you, walking around, and why not stopping you and asking you a couple of questions. This is accidental sampling. So again, the disadvantage is this. Some people contacted may not have the required information. So, for example, you want to find out why people, drink coffee, how much they spend on average on coffee per day or per week. So if you just keep, if you use accidental sampling, you're gonna approach people even if they are not holding a cup of coffee in their hand. They might say, I don't drink coffee, I don't consume coffee, and then you say, yes, thank you, you could go. Okay, so that can waste some time. It could waste some time of the people and waste your time. uh, that that is the disadvantage, the key disadvantage of accidental sampling. Also, on an additional note, accidental sampling uh, is popular among newspaper reporter and marketing researchers. Third, convenience sampling. Convenience sampling is similar to accidental sampling. The researcher is guided by convenience. What do we mean by convenience? Convenience means a lot in research. It means easy accessibility. For example, I can access the opinion, from my colleague who shares the office with me. So that's easy access. Or I could, survey the classes that I teach. Students like me, they are likely to cooperate when I need the data from them. That's accessibility. Or convenience could mean geographical proximity. Some researchers decide to select school A or institute A simply because such school is close to his or her, workplace, or to his or her household, or thing like that. Known contacts, I remember supervising my master student, and I asked him why you decided to select, high school A, and he said, I know the, I know the school principal over there. We are close. Fine, yeah, that's convenient for him. Already approval, um, the gatekeeper, the key person at a particular school who is in the position to approve uh, the researchers data collection request, you know, provides like green light. That could be a reason for for a researcher to use convenient sampling because of ready approval by the gatekeeper, or the researcher is a part of the group. Sometimes I learned that one or two of my supervisors select his or her workplace or his or her schools as the research site, as the research setting. And I asked why that school? And the answer was that I'm working over there. I am a principal of, private school A. So that's convenient. So you can see a researcher adopts convenient sampling simply because of convenience. And convenience means multiple things in this context. I don't need to restate this example. Next, let's go to judgmental or purposive sampling. So for judgmental or purposive sampling, the primary consideration is your judgment as to who can provide the best information to achieve the objective of your study. So the researcher is the one who judges as to who is the best qualified, or as to who holds the richest information in order to satisfy the research objective or to answer the research question. So you make up your own mind who is best qualified, who knows uh, the answers more, who have experience a particular situation that you are interested in doing research into. So it's very useful. Judgmental or purposive sampling is very, very useful when you want to construct a history or a historical reality. So you talk to people whom you believe have rich information, or you want to describe phenomenon or something that is little known. Judgmental or purposive sampling is more common in qualitative research, but if you use it in a quantitative study, you need to decide in advance the sample size. So I don't know. I don't want to come back to. I don't want to retouch. That concept, a predetermined sample size, because we already covered that in the previous lesson. But now, next we're gonna go. We talk about expert sampling. So your respondents must be known experts in the field of interest to you. Known experts. People talk about him, or people talk about her. He is the expert. He is so good at doing this and doing that. So you decide to approach such expert and collect the data from him or her. So it is used, expert sampling is used in both types of research, but it is more commonly used in qualitative studies. So for expert sampling, if you conduct a qualitative study, it depends on data saturation. So how many experts are you going to recruit in your study? The answer is wait until after data have saturated. You talk to the first person, the first expert, second expert, expert number 5, number 10, number 20. Okay, stop at 20 because no new information, occurs. So the sample size is 20 because you don't learn anything new after that sample size or beyond that sample size. In a quantitative research, you decide on the number of experts without considering the saturation point. So this is the concept that we already covered last time. Again, it's worth re-emphasizing quant sampling or quantitative research sample size. It's predetermined. Okay, it's predetermined. Even if you adopt expert sampling or accidental sampling or convenient sampling, sample size is already predetermined. Snowball sampling is the last one in this package. So how does it work? It works this way. The process of selecting a sample by using network. So you use network, you use connection in order to select your sample size. For example, we start with a few individuals, okay, and we collect the data from the first few individuals, and then we ask them to identify or to recommend more people. So we talk to the more people, and then we ask them to identify or to recommend more people. We talk to the more people, and we ask the more people to recommend more people until we have reached the required sample size that we want. For example, we want a snowball of 100 people. We're gonna stop when we have reached the sample size that we have already predetermined. Or in qualitative research, the researcher gonna stop using Snowball in order to recruit more participants if they have reached a data saturation point or a saturation point. So it is Snowball sampling is very useful if you know so little about the group or the organization by starting with a few people. As stated earlier, the concept of Snowball sampling is we start with a few people and we ask them to identify more people, and more people are asked to identify still more people. So this is a powerful sampling technique. The disadvantage is the choice is that the disadvantage is that the choice of the entire sample rests upon the choice of individuals at the first stage. So it could be biased. So as stated earlier, we start with a few individuals, and then they recommend more individuals, and more individuals recommend more individuals. So the first few individuals shape your research journey or determine who uh, who gonna be subsequently recruited uh, in your study. So their opinions could be biased. Such sampling is biased. Their opinions may not represent the target population opinion. So that's it. That's all about the 6 types of non-probability sampling in qualitative and quantitative research. And I shall meet you in the last video for chapter 12. Thank you very much.